Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. How are you all doing? This is Attorney Odunlami, immigration attorney from the Odunlami law firm. And I have a great topic for you guys today. So come on, join me and let us get started. Um, my office is located in New Jersey, but we serve clients in all 50 states because immigration is federal law. So I'm very excited to talk about this topic because October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So hi, come on in and say hello when you come in. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Hi, Chef Siobhan. Thank you for joining me. I have a really great topic and I'm really excited to talk about this because it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Domestic violence in the immigration process. So you all, if you have followed me, you know we're going to talk about VAWA today, right? All right. So guys, let's get started. And also, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, I'm on TikTok. So please remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell so that when I come in, you are notified and you can get to hear what I have to talk about. So today's topic has to do with VAWA, Violence Against Women's Act. And yes, it says Violence Against Women's Act, but it is actually a relief that applies to both men, women, children. And let me explain to you the reason VAWA, I guess one of the reasons for the VAWA relief in the immigration process. You all know that in a family petition that the US citizen or the LPR, which is a green card holder, is in control of the process. So they determine when the petition is filed, if the petition is filed, because it's their petition. So if you are in an abusive relationship with a US citizen or green card holder who's abusive, then guess what? It creates a really difficult situation for the beneficiary who may be compelled to remain in that abusive, sometimes dangerous situation because they're afraid that they could get deported or they're afraid of losing sponsorship. So VAWA actually remedies a serious problem in the family-based immigration process by allowing the beneficiary to self-petition, which is they do not rely on the US citizen or the green card holder petitioner to get their green card. It allows them to self-petition as long as they're able to meet the requirements of filing for VAWA. So VAWA applies to men, women in heterosexual relationships and in homosexual relationships. It applies to children who have been abused by their U.S. citizen or green card holder parents, step parents, adoptive parents. It also applies to parents who have been abused by their U.S. citizen children who are over the age of 21. So this is just a general overview, but VAWA has age limitations, time limitations. So you want to make sure that you qualify to file VAWA. And an example of a time limitation is if you intend to file VAWA against an abusive spouse, you must file within 2 years of the divorce. I can tell you, I have a lot of people who come for consultations and they didn't know about VAWA and they were in horribly abusive situations where they could have really qualified and won a VAWA petition easily, but they didn't know. And so they filed a divorce, and 3 years later, they're having a consultation, and I have to tell them you do not qualify because you have to file your VAWA petition within 2 years of the divorce. If your abuser has passed away, your U.S. citizen or green card holder abuser, you have to file same thing within 2 years of the death of the abuser. So there are time requirements that are really important. if you're a U.S. citizen, if you're an abused child, you have to file before you're 21. And if for some reason you're not able to file before you're 21, you're allowed to file before you turn 25, but you have to show that the reason you didn't file was because of something related to the abuse. So these are just some of the conditions of filing VAWA, because there are quite a bit of them, but I can't go through everything, but because it would take too long. But I keep talking about it from time to time when I come on my lives. So make sure you follow me so that you can get more information. And now the thing about abuse is sometimes you're not aware that the behavior you are suffering, the behavior that is breaking your heart, is actually abuse, because maybe you think abuse only concerns physical abuse, where somebody punches you, beats you, and you think that, well, if there's no physical injury, then it's not abuse. And so that's what this topic is going to go into. Hi, Amarjit. Amarjit says, good afternoon, Miss Attorney Odunlami. Good seeing you again. You give good information. Thank you, Amarjit. It's my pleasure. It's my honor to assist my fellow immigrants in this process of getting legal status. So once I'm done with this, I'll take a couple of questions. So let me get started. So we've talked about what VAWA is meant to do. We've talked about who qualifies for VAWA, right? So you can have VAWA in a marital situation. You can have VAWA in, in a situation where you're an immediate relative of a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, but not married to them, right? And so I want to really focus on abuse, right? The types of abuse that could qualify for VAWA. Sometimes it could be a combination of different types of abuse. It could be it could be just one thing. But what I have seen is where there's abuse, it's typically not just one thing, So let's talk about it. So for starters, abuse is about power and control, right? It's about power and control. And our inquiry is always, how has the U.S. citizen or green card holder wielded power and control over our clients, right? Now, physical abuse, people are very familiar with physical abuse. Somebody punching you or punching your child, could qualify you for VAWA, because abuse to your child is or threats to your child would qualify you for VAWA, or even your pet, So physical abuse is typically not so hard to spot, because we all know that if you're being punched or you're being beaten, or somebody's punching the wall, putting you in fear or putting you in dangerous situations, such as you're in a car that they drop you off in the middle of the night somewhere, which could put you at harm's risk, that's a form of physical abuse. But the more the abuse that people are not quite familiar with, where they are not sure it's abuse, is when it falls into the realm of psychological abuse, financial abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse. So those are the kind of things I want to talk about. I want to give you examples of abusive conduct. The ones that we see quite often are actually abuse that have to do with intimidation and threats, using coercion and threats, such as threatening to report the non-citizen to ICE, threatening not to go for the interview, threatening not to submit the petition, threatening to withdraw the petition if you have submitted it, right? Making the filing of the petition dependent on the non-citizen doing what you want them to do. That's control, right? And so, or threatening to harm somebody close to the non-citizen. So we see a lot of coercion and threats, threatening to call the police, saying, guess what, I'm a US citizen and they're going to believe me. You're an immigrant, nobody's going to believe you. So a lot of times we've had our clients in a situation where they've been abused and the abuser calls the police. And they run away because they're afraid, because they think that the police would not believe them, because they've been told often enough by the abuser that nobody's going to believe you, right? And you know the thing about abuse, right? I don't know if you guys remember the case of what's that movie star with Amber Heard? I don't remember his first name now. I don't remember his name, but you guys know who I'm talking about. The one thing I heard in the recordings, right, that made me think of my VAWA client was when she would be abusive towards him, and she would say, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to call the police? They're not going to believe you because I'm a woman, right? So in that instance, that person who was the abuser, who was a woman, used her role as a woman to perpetrate abuse on the actor. I don't remember his name now, right? So in the same way, we see a lot of that with our clients, where the US citizen or the LPR will say, well, you're an immigrant, you're illegal, you know, quote unquote, and nobody's going to believe you. So there's not, you have no control, you have no power, right? And I want my fellow immigrants to know this. Even if you're undocumented, you have rights. If somebody is perpetrating abuse upon you, call the police. Okay? There's nothing that says that because you're undocumented that you should be abused or you should, you know, live in fear of your life. All right? That call may actually save your life and may qualify you for being able to file VAWA or other, you know, other types of relief, right? Today I'm talking about VAWA, so I'm not going to talk about other types of relief, but it just may. All right. So we get a lot of, you know, the threats, you know, we get a lot of the verbal abuse, you know, name calling, racist names, you know, and then in some situations like our fellow immigrants who are gay, they have their partners threatening to expose their sexuality to their family members and their friends who may or may not know that you know, that they're gay, right? That's a form of abuse, right? Because you're trying to use that information, the abuser is trying to use that information as a way of controlling the immigrants, right? So other types of abuse is you know, intimidation, when you destroy papers that the, you know, the US citizen has her, maybe her passport, her children's, and I use he's, her interchangeably because abusers can be male and they can be female. So when I say her, it could be he, it doesn't matter, right? You destroy their documents, or you hide their documents, or you hide documents when they come in. For instance, you file you file a petition, you get an interview, and they hide the document so that you don't go for the interview, so that the case is dismissed, or they go for the interview with intent of sabotaging the interview because you are not compliant with what they want you to do. Now, another form of abuse can be isolation. You know, a lot of times we have a lot of clients who maybe came to the United States to visit, maybe, and they meet somebody here who says, you know, I don't want you to go back, you know, we're in love, let's stay on, and let's, you know, build a life together. And so the immigrant says, sure, you know, they stay back, only to find out that, I mean, they leave a lot back home. They leave a job, they leave maybe their family members, and decide, you know what, this is the love of my life. Well, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to build a life with them. We're going to, you know, they're going to file my papers. I'm going to get my papers. We're going to work together into building this beautiful life, only to find out that, you know, that person is not who they thought they were. And that person now uses the fact that this immigrant doesn't have friends here or has very few friends, and begins to isolate them, won't let them make new friends, won't let them talk to people that they know, won't let them speak their language. If they go to the grocery store, they monitor, you know, their activities. How long? When did you go? Make sure you're home. You know, they basically isolate them. Isolation is an abuse tactic used to control, you know, people, right? So if you are married to somebody who is refusing to let you talk to people, not letting you talk to your family members, not letting you talk to your friends, wanting to know where you are, and if you go somewhere, they accuse you of infidelity. They make such a big deal about you going out that you decide, you know what, I'm just going to stay home because I don't want any trouble. That's a form of abuse. So, other forms of abuse would be, economic abuse. That's a big one, right? So, economic abuse or financial abuse could be forcing the person to go work when you know they have no papers, or knowing that the person has no papers and refusing to support them. You know that they can't work. You refuse to file for them to work. You refuse to file the paper so they can get a work permit, so that they can be dependent on whatever you give them or however you treat them, right? And refusing to let them go to school to better themselves. Maybe they want to go get an education and you refuse because the abuser is afraid that if they better themselves, yeah, thank you, Johnny Depp. Can't remember his name. The abuser is afraid that if you better yourself, that you would leave them. That's actually, that's a lot of times abuse is based on them thinking that if you get into this American life where you get a job and you begin to prosper, you might think that, you want somebody better and you would leave them. So they want you in a position where you're dependent on them and you're grateful that, that they're with you. So they won't let you move towards any kind of progress. They won't let you get an education. They may not even let you get a job. They may ask you to stay home, and then you stay home, but they won't buy grocery. They will leave you and go away, leaving you with no food, no way to take care of yourself. And sometimes some of them, especially if they're immigrants that became green card holders or citizens, may just take off to their own country and leave you with no form of no way to take care of yourself. That's a form of abuse, because they know that you're not able to take care of yourself because you're not equipped with a work permit, you don't have a job, and yet, they refuse to provide, right? Now, what else? Another form of financial abuse would be when you go to work, they take your money from you, or you work and your spouse is making unreasonable demands on your income, asking you to buy things that you cannot afford. And this is an abuse that is very typical, with men, I've heard a lot of my male VAWA clients complain about their spouse is asking them to buy a lot of things that they cannot afford, and sometimes the immigrant has family back home that they want to send money to, and their U.S. citizen or green card holder spouse won't let them send money to their family, won't let them send money to their other children, because they say this family is a priority. And so they basically threaten them that if you do this or you do that, then I'm not going to file your papers, I won't show up for the interview, or if I show up for the interview, I'm going to say it's a fake marriage, that kind of stuff. All right? That's abuse. Now, other forms of financial abuse would be, you open a bank account together with your spouse, your paycheck is going in there, and they're spending everything. Your U.S. citizen or green card holder spouse is basically putting the account in the red constantly. And so they know that part of proving a bona fide relationship is showing that you have commingling of assets, joint bank accounts, that kind of stuff. And then because you're compelled to keep that account with them, they take advantage of it by withdrawing that account all the time. That's a form of abuse, And I have a lot of clients who have, they decide, I can't keep putting money in there for you to withdraw, and then there's no money in the account. All right. Another form of abuse would be, the sexual abuse, right? Sexual abuse, like, regardless of what other people in the world may think, there's sexual abuse within a marriage. Even though you're married to somebody, consent, your body is still your body. So if you have a spouse who is insisting that you must sleep with them, or you must engage in certain sexual acts that you're not comfortable with, right? That could be a form of sexual abuse. The rape is sexual abuse, clearly, and there is rape in marital situations. I want you guys to know that. I know there's a theory out there that a man cannot rape his wife, or that a woman cannot rape a man. That's not true. All right. So if you are being forced into sexual behaviors that you're not comfortable with, that could be sexual abuse. All right. So let's see what else. What else? What else? Because I wrote this all out because I wanted to really get into it with you guys. You know, giving you STDs, right? You have a spouse who is out there, you know, frolicking with everybody and coming home and bringing you STDs. That's a form of sexual abuse, right? Because that's putting you in harm's way, right? Or you have somebody who doesn't give you a say in family planning. Either they're insisting you have a baby, or they're refusing for you to have a child. You know, when before you got married, there's an agreement, you know, we're going to have kids. As soon as you get married, it's like, nope, we're not having any kids and you can't do anything about it. Or you must have kids. Otherwise, I'm out of this relationship, even though it was clear at the beginning that, you know, this is not the time. Because a lot of times it's the immigrant feeling like this is not the time to have a child because we don't have a life together, we don't have money, we don't have finances, I haven't gotten my papers. I want to make sure that I get my papers so I can contribute, so I can work, we can save up, and then we can have children. And they don't have a say because the U.S. citizen or the green card holder feels that, you know, it's my way or the highway. All right. And there's also emotional abuse. You with somebody who makes you feel crazy, you know, gaslighting, you know, they make it seem as if you are to blame for their behavior. You are to blame because they hit you. You are to blame if you didn't act a certain way. They wouldn't do this to you. So everything is your fault, right? And they make it such that you're afraid, you know, to say anything because somehow, one way or the other, it's always going to be your fault, right? So if this is making sense to you, then you may qualify for VAWA if you're married to a U.S. citizen or green card holder, or you're the child or parent, or you're the child of a U.S. citizen or green card holder, or the parent of a U.S. citizen who's over the age of 21, right? So, so what are we talking again? We're talking about what else? We've talked about sexual abuse, some of it, calling you sexual names, using sex as a punishment or to gain power, demanding sex, purposely getting you pregnant without taking your feelings into consideration, insulting your sexual performance, cheating on you. Is the adultery is itself is not the abuse, but it's the way it's done. You know, if it's done in a way that you know, puts you in harm's way, or you know, makes you feel, you know, makes you feel bad about yourself, you know, it could be abuse, right? But adultery itself, just the cheating on its own, USCIS doesn't really consider that abuse. All right. So let's think of what else could be abuse. Somebody, oh, this is a good one. Somebody who controls your physical appearance, you know, tells you what to wear, tells you what to eat, you know, shames you about the way you look, you know, embarrasses you in front of people, you know, talks down at you, you know, humiliates you, continually criticizes you, you know, all of that could, you know, could be abusive. All of that is abusive. So you want to be able to tell your story in a way that USCIS doesn't call it marital tension, because that's what I've seen sometimes. You know, they'll say, we've had clients who come in with denials, and they want us to assist them. And I read the reason for the denial, and USCIS is like, well, this is not abuse, this is marital tension. Really? Seriously? Somebody is kicked out of the house in the cold, you know, can't come back home, and that's marital tension? I don't know about that. You know, so it's important that when you write your declaration, which is your story about what you've been through, that you write the story in a way that USCIS can see what you're going through, what happened, how did it make you feel. They have to be able to understand what you went through, and that is most important. And it's done when you have a well-written declaration. Now, you can also have family members who have witnessed the abuse, right on your behalf. Talk about what they've witnessed. Maybe you were at a party and your spouse was using bad words, cursing you out, that kind of stuff, and everybody was there, and that made you feel so bad about yourself. Something like that. If somebody were witness, they could write about it, or somebody that you told about it, they could write an affidavit, joining your declaration. Your declaration is key. I had a woman that came for consultation. She filed a VAWA, and she said, but she didn't put a declaration. And I'm like, but that's the basis of your VAWA has to be your story, your declaration. What happened to you, right? So let's see. So I've talked about different types of abuse, but they're not, this is not a list. I haven't exhausted the list. So there's other types of abuse. And a lot of times, when the person tells their story, you're able to see what they're going through. And so even if what you're going through is not anything I've mentioned here, that does not mean that you're not suffering from, you're not being abused. And I would urge you, if you ever feel that you're just being treated badly, extreme cruelty, because the law is physical abuse or extreme cruelty, right? You feel that you're being treated badly, talk to an immigration lawyer who does a lot of VAWA, because a lot of times clients come to me and other lawyers have told them they don't qualify for VAWA because it's not physical abuse. And that always shocks me, because I kid you not, most of our cases are not physical abuse. Most of our cases are psychological, emotional abuse, and we win those cases. So it's important to talk to somebody who has a really good understanding of VAWA. So almost lost my voice. So I'm going to answer a couple of questions. So Siobhan says, I filed my I-360 along with I-485 and I-765. Will I get a work permit before they approve my case? Or will they have to approve my I-360 before they will consider giving me a work permit? So Chev, that's a really great question. So if you file your I-360 along with the adjustment of status package, which is the I-485, 765, and also the I-131, which is the advanced parole, you should get a work permit. And I hope you put the right code for the 765. It should be C9 if you're filing it along with your I-360. Because the I-360 code is different. So if you're filing with the adjustment of status package, the I-765 code should be C9 if you want to get a work permit, while your case is pending. And typically the work permit would take anywhere from, I'd say, like maybe 5 to 10 months from when you file. Because I've noticed the I-360 adjustment of status work permit takes a little longer than when you file with just a regular family-based petition. But you should get your work permit. And if you file for an advanced parole, which is a travel permit, you should get that as well. So I think that's all the questions I have. Hi, Georgia. Georgia says, wow, with an ear. Yes, Georgia, share this live, because there are people out there who do not know that VAWA exists to help them out of their abusive situation. All right. So let's see if there's any question on Instagram. I don't think there's any question on Instagram either. So you guys, like I said, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So please look out. Even if you have friends who have been abused, even in the non-immigration setting, be a friend to them. Be there to assist them. If they're in dangerous situations, please encourage them to get out. Okay? All right. So Amajit says, I got 360 approved. Excellent. Congratulations. You've got your work permit. Also, can I get treble inducement? I'm not sure what that is. What's treble inducement? I don't know what that is. Can you explain? Ikenna Igwe says, is there a way to expedite your I-751? No, they've given you 48 months. 48 months extension letters. So hopefully you get it sooner than later. But you have, the thing is, I-751s are now a priority because you have a green card. And then when you file the I-751, you get the receipt, which extends your green card for another 4 months. So USCIS does not consider you a priority. So that's that. All right, travel inducement. Okay. All right, so Amajit says, can I get you? I guess what you mean is, can you get a travel permit, Amajit? So if Amajit is, if you file the I-360 along with the I-485, then you can, if you didn't file, okay, your I-485 is pending, that's good. So if you didn't file for travel permit, you can file for it now. What you need to do is you have to file the form I-131, and then you have to include your copy of your I-485 receipt notice, and so that they know that it's based on the adjustment of status that you filed. Okay. So Sharon Big says, what if I'm married to somebody that is 18 years younger than I am, but was dating for nearly 3 years? Hi, Sharon. That's a really great question, and I'm happy to discuss this. So the immigration laws state that they are atypical marriage situations, right? So there's nothing that says that just because you're married to somebody who is significantly younger than you, that you won't get approved. No, there's nothing like that. It's just that when there is a big age difference, it's just a red flag. That's all, right? And it just means that you really need to bring good evidence for them to see that it's a real, genuine relationship. And if you've been dating for 3 years, I'm sure you have really good evidence. So Sharon, don't think that you will not get you won't get your papers because of the age difference. You just need to make sure you give them really good evidence. All right. We've had clients that had age differences wider than that, and they've gotten their green cards. So if you don't have an attorney, you might want to get an attorney because you want to make sure that you give them good evidence. All right. Caprion says, my boyfriend is from Haiti. Can he travel to any other country on his green card? Of course, Caprion, if your boyfriend has a green card, he can travel. But remember, a green card is not like a US passport that allows you to automatically go to countries that have a visa waiver. So with a green card, he still has to get a visa to go to those countries. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, I think that's all the questions I'm seeing. So Tammy Raya says, what determines if USCIS will transfer my I-485 from a marriage case to a VAWA case? You have to request it, Tammy Raya, and they actually don't send you any notification that they had. You have to request this. We call it an abeyance request. They don't give you any notification that it's been accepted. But typically what happens is, if we assume that it's been accepted if they it shows that they received it. And typically when our client files maybe another work permit, it's approved, then it's not a problem. But if they call you for an interview, even though you've made an abeyance request, if they call you for an interview based on the marriage case, you must go for that interview and take with you your I-360 receipt notice to let them know that you have filed an I-360, and whatever letter you send asking them to move the case from the marriage case to the VAWA case, you want to take that with you. But don't not show up for the interview because you think, oh, I've already requested for them to move the case. You want to, if they send you an interview notice, clearly they are not aware of that. You want to go for the interview to let them know that. Okay. All right, guys. Amajit, you're welcome. I think that will be it. I got to run. But as always, it was a pleasure talking to you guys. So this October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, reach out to somebody, help somebody, okay? Take care. I'm just going to answer one more question. Malika says, do I need to file 2 applications for a married couple to migrate to the US? I don't know what you're talking about. This is not clear at all. So Malika, ask that question again, but be more explicit in the chat so that I understand exactly what you're asking, because I don't understand your question. All right, guys, take care. Have a great week.